Okay, moving on to number 2, public safety presentation, fire by Chief Pete Daly. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor Cleveland and members of City Council. I'm before you tonight on my semi-annual presentation where I come before the council and kind of let you know what's going on with the fire department. Busy time for us and a lot going on, and not just because it's hot and fire season, but lots of other things. So I'm here tonight to kind of share some what we're doing right now in the fire department. So in the fire service, I've always had a philosophy, even when I was the division chief of operations, and that is I keep it real simple for our firefighters. And my motto has always been to get the right engine with the right people to the right location in the right time and do the right thing. And if we're doing that, then we're providing the best customer service we can to our citizens and our visitors here in our community. So that's kind of the emphasis of everything you're going to see tonight. So a lot going on personnel-wise, promotions and recruitments. Currently, I have promotions in almost in every category we have in the fire department. Everything from battalion chief to fire captain to fire apparatus operator to full-time firefighters, as well as SAFA grant firefighters I'll be replacing in the next few months. As you can see, the column on the left is my emergency personnel, my line staff that respond to emergencies, and the column on the right is my administrative staff. The ones on the left, those will take priority. We'll fill the line staff positions first, and we're in the process of doing that. And then the administrative staff will fill as we go along. On the administrative staff, I'll be looking at filling the fire marshal position, an administrative analyst position, an administrative clerk position, and then an assistant fire chief. I pushed off the assistant fire chief because the police chief was gracious enough to loan me the operations manager from the PD, Shauna Pavey. So she's kind of filling in some of those roles for me. So she's taking care of some of those duties so I can focus on line staff. So lots of promotions and recruitments going on this summer and through the end of the year. Training-wise, probably we do training every day. We do 2 hours of training every day for all our fire personnel. That's a given for us. That's 240 hours a year, basically. But on top of that, we do other training, specialized training. Some of the training we're focusing on right now, and I'll talk about it here in a few minutes, is we're training some of our people up to the hazardous materials specialist level. That's a very intense training. It's about 240 hours of training to be able to respond to hazardous materials incidences. And that's going to be sponsored through the state. We also have, along with that, a separate 40-hour course for a hazardous materials safety officer, and that training is being provided to a select few, as well as a hazmat instructor class. Some of the internal stuff that we've been working on is we just completed the 14 that we hired last year. We got them all through a week of training of driver operator 1A on how to properly check out and handle emergency vehicles, fire engines, and driver operator 1B, which dealt with more of the pumping aspects of driving and pumping a vehicle and pumping water. So we were able to get them through 2 weeks of training of some of our newer firefighters. Our new firefighters are doing great. The ones that we hired last year, we had a goal to get them within 24 months. Our goal was to get them through what we call Firefighter 1 and Firefighter 2. That was the goal. Within 14 months, they surpassed that. They were able to get through Firefighter 1, through Firefighter 2, and now they're working on operator skills. So they've done a tremendous job for us. We're also working on recruiting some additional firefighters. And when they come on board, we'll put them through a 6-week academy like we did last year for the other firefighters. So quite a bit of training going on. Some of the new apparatus we're going to be looking at that's been approved for the budget. And we'll be looking at a new type, what we call a Type 1 engine. And we're in the process of replacing some of our engines that have 20, 25 years on them. We put a lot of miles on our engines, and so which is good. We get a good use out of them. But we were definitely due for some replacement. So this year we'll be looking at replacing a new Type 1 engine. It'll either go at station 1 or 2, depending on where the need is, and I'll rely on the mechanics to tell me what's best to replace. We'll also be looking at a new battalion chief vehicle. Probably be doing something similar to like what I did for my vehicle. We'll be looking at probably like a Chevy Tahoe, something along those lines. The one we have right now, the battalion chief rig, we put in service in 2001. So we've been using it for 17 years. So we got some good use out of it, but we need to replace that. The other thing that we're working on this year is we're looking at, for the first time, having a new rescue, which has air and light capability. This saves us some money because it doesn't take the place of an engine, but it allows me to do a lot of the things that a big fire engine can do, as far as having some of the rescue equipment. It'll also have a lot of air capability and light capability at the fire scene. So that way we can light up the fire scene real well, and also be able to provide breathing air for our breathing apparatus. And that'll be a big plus for us to have this unit. And this unit is far less expensive than a new fire engine. It also keeps the engines available for other types of fire calls if we have to keep at the scene for lighting or for air. Another piece of apparatus I brought to you a couple weeks ago was our new hazardous materials unit rig. We'll be getting that through the California Office of Emergency Services. They will be loaning that to us for our use. That's about a $500,000 piece of equipment. It'll be brand new, and that should be issued to us shortly. We just signed up the last of the contracts for the vehicle, and we'll be going down to do about 3 days of training down at Mather Air Force Base, where Cal OES is located, and we'll be doing training with them before we take possession of the vehicle. Along with that vehicle, hazardous materials is very specialized, so along with that vehicle comes with about $300,000 worth of equipment inside that vehicle for free. Such things as protective chemical suits, detection equipment, decontamination equipment, gas detectors, chemicals, chemical identification kits, and leak kits for different types of hazardous material spills that we go on. So you can see when we send people, not only do we need the vehicle, but the reason the training comes along with it is because that 240 hours of training is just dedicated on how to deal with all different types of hazardous materials, everything from gasoline to diesel to pesticides, any type of chemical you can think of, we deal with it. And then we have to deal with it in different circumstances. Sometimes it's on the road, sometimes it's by rail, sometimes it's at a fixed facility. Future in the apparatus, probably in a couple years, I'll be coming back to you at some point and buying probably one more Type 1 engine or asking approval for one more Type 1 engine, like I'm in the upper left there. That'll finish us out as far as replacing the majority of our first outline equipment and should put us in a really good position for quite a few years. And at some point, I'll need to come back and talk about an aerial ladder. Our aerial ladder we have right now is 1990. It services very well. So we're about 27 years into that piece of equipment, but at some point down the road, we'll need to look at replacing it or something like that. Some other equipment that we've received on grants, so I call ancillary equipment, and is a Department of Fish and Game. We were successful this year in getting from the Office of Spill Prevention and Recovery, also known as OSPR. We were successful in getting an OSPR grant for $35,000, which included this trailer, but I promise you it will not be this color, okay? It will be either white or red, something that'll look nice, okay? I don't know why they painted it this yellow. But it's about a $35,000 trailer, and it comes with all of the equipment inside, all the containment booms and all that kind of stuff, as well as it also comes with the training along with it. So our swiftwater rescue team, along with certain people from our hazmat team, will be trained on how to deploy the booms and the other type of equipment that we have in there in case we have some type of spill in the river to protect our waterways and as well protect our drinking water. So in case they have something on the railroad that crosses the river, or up north if something happens and spills into the river, we can do some work with it before it causes us problems. So that's a nice piece of equipment we get to add to the department. The other big thing that we're going to do this year is every 15 years we're required per National Fire Protection Association, NFPA, to replace our breathing apparatus. Our breathing apparatus is what we wear on our backs when we go into fires. It allows us to go into IDLH atmospheres that are not good for people to breathe in, and be able to rescue people or perform some of the functions that we do. These are not cheap pieces of equipment. They're very technical, and they're very expensive. To replace the fleet of our approximately 55 SCPAs that we have in a department, probably looking close to about $600,000. We were successful last year on a grant, and we'll be going after that grant again pretty aggressively, and my goal is to get that grant. If I don't get that grant, I'll be coming back and visiting the council, unfortunately. But we will have to replace those in March of 18 because believe it or not, the bottles on the packs themselves are no longer can be transported per DOT. So we've extended the life of those bottles and those packs. And those packs are about 15 years old, so we've had them for about 15 years, and we've got our use out of them. Another grant that we were successful in was another Homeland Security grant. I've also been in the process of replacing all of our extrication equipment. Our extrication equipment is commonly referred to as a jaws of life. That's what we use on vehicle accidents or other types of situations where people are trapped in vehicles, in buildings, whatever it may be. Anything that we need to move some heavy equipment or open some doors or tear off a roof to get to access people, to get them out in a safe manner, especially vehicle accidents is the main use for these. We have a set on each piece of engine, and I believe this is our 4th or 5th set that we'll be getting on a grant that we've received on a grant every time. So these were all replaced through the grant process. And it comes with cutters and spreaders and different types of equipment. So that's another piece of equipment we received. Another grant that we put in for, our Assistance to Firefighter grant, that'll be for 6 gas meters. We'll be replacing the gas meters on each engine that we have. We use that commonly for things like when you call us for carbon monoxide, your carbon monoxide detector is going off. We can use this device to see if there's carbon monoxide inside the building and other types of gases, low oxygen levels, things like that. So not a real expensive piece of equipment, but it's something that we need to replace on a regular basis because this is something that is very important to us because we don't want to give false information. So they have to be calibrated and well taken care of. The other thing we put in for a grant, if I'm not successful this, I will not be coming back to the council. I'll just put in for another grant, hopefully. But I'm hoping that we'll be successful for a new video conferencing system. What's unique about this system is in the past, it was just within our own city fire department. We had it set up for all 5 fire stations in our admin building to where we could do training at our fire administration building and keep all the firefighters in their stations. If anyone knows me, my main focus, getting back to my motto is getting people there in the right time. Response times are everything for me. When someone's not breathing or we have a working fire, the quicker we can get resources on scene, the quicker we can mitigate the situation. So one way we can achieve that, but we have to provide training to our firefighters. So one of the ways we can provide that training is through the use of video conferencing system. We have a very nice conferencing system in our classroom, but it's about 15 years old and they don't repair it anymore. So, and also it's got 15-year technology. So you can imagine that it doesn't do quite the things as today's technology can do. So we put in for a grant, but I also extend the offer to the regional departments. So we're actually reaching out to 6 fire departments, such as Sutter County, Marysville, Linda, Olvehurst, who am I missing? Wheatland and Yuba City, and which would touch about 16 facilities. And so we all put in for this grant together. It's a regional grant. We found that we're more successful with regional grants than we are with independent grants. So we're hoping with this regional grant we'll be successful and we'll be funded for a video conferencing system that we can use for training as well as for disasters.
Before you move on, this equipment, and if you are successful, having all the major jurisdictions, ability to talk to each other real time, you'd be able to utilize that also for emergencies of, like the one we just occurred. We could actually get some real-time discussion and accurate information back and forth between each other immediately rather than trying to get in contact with each other.
Absolutely, and it's also very expandable. So if we want to start including other city and county government agencies, we could do that as well. So
part of that real-time information goal that we're promoting very strongly, right?
Absolutely. I support that 100%.
Thank you.
Through the mayor. Hey, Chief, that 300,000, is that times 6 or is that grand total for the 6?
That's the grand total.
Okay.
So our facility, one of the things I wanted to do was I wanted to make sure that at our classroom at admin building, we kind of hosted it. So our portion is, I think, off the top of my head, for some reason, 67,000 sticks in my mind, just for our classroom area, because I want to make sure that the main hub is at our classroom, so we can have good control over everything that goes on with it, as far as maintenance and care and having the flexibility to use the system. Facilities, real quick, we're also active in facilities right now. As you know, we have 5 fire stations in the admin building. Those fire stations are occupied 24/7, 365 days a year. So it's like having maintaining a house. So we have 5 houses that I'm responsible for as well. Incrementally, we've been updating our fire stations and bringing them up to a better living standard. Some of them are in really good shape. Some are a little bit older. Station 2 here is the one I'll be focusing on this year and last year. Last year on the upper picture, you can see is what the front looked like before we made some modifications to it. We did not have ADA parking. We had grass out there. We had not real good asphalt. The asphalt was deteriorating. This building was here when I came here in '85. And so basically we had a house that was been used for about 32 years, 33 years, and hadn't had a lot of maintenance. So the first thing we did on phase one was we put the ADA parking in the front and did took care of some landscape items. Phase two we completed last year. We put up a security fence, exterior lighting, which we didn't have, and we also provided parking, new concrete access and parking. And believe it or not, the concrete is unbelievable amount of concrete we had to use for these fire engines because they weigh about 40,000 pounds. So it's not like 4 inches of concrete you'd put in your driveway. I think it was anywhere from 8 to 10 inches of concrete was how thick the concrete was. And it was special concrete just so that it was 20 to 25 year concrete. So that way we can make sure that it's durable for us. And then also I had them put in a pad for an expansion because this is one of our smaller fire stations. It's on Gray Avenue at 1641 Gray. There's another picture of the front with some drought tolerant landscaping and our ADA access. In the back, you can see the amount of concrete that we put in, as well as security fencing. And then we left a pad back there that we'll be working on this year, which will be adding some square footage and making a larger dormitory, as well as remodeling the inside. And we were funded for that. And that's a huge project for us. And I'm really appreciative of the council for approving that because this is a big deal for us because it's a very small facility to put firefighters in. Our other facilities, Station 3 and 4, we got some basic stuff going on. Basically, we need some paint on the outside and the inside at Station 3, which is located down on Lincoln and Railroad. And we got some new flooring we're going to be putting in. One of the things we're doing is I'm remodeling these stations. I'm making sure they're MRSA compliant. In other words, we brought a specialist in to review some of our fire stations because we go on a lot of medical calls and sometimes we get exposed to things. We want to make sure that when the firefighters come back that we have the right type of material in the stations and the right type of protective procedures put in place so that we don't bring it back to the fire station and infect other people. So Fire Station 4, which is our newest station, it does need some paint on the exterior. We'll be working on that. And also we have a lot of concrete back there that we need to reinforce some of the joints in between the concrete and get some caulking and stuff like that put in there in that area to keep that concrete in good condition. So 3 and 4, minor maintenance stuff this year. Our fire administration building, same thing. We'll be removing some of the carpet and putting in some better flooring. That carpet's the original when it was built. We have some security fencing that we're going to be putting up. We put in for some assistance from FEMA because some of that fencing was damaged during the storm. So we're hoping about $7,000 to $10,000 of that is on FEMA money. It's about a $20,000 project. I'm also always working on a way to get rid of our water tower. And so I will give it away for free if someone wants to come take it. But actually I've been working with AT&T quite a bit because their contract is going to be expired soon and they have antennas on the top. So I've given them an incentive of build me a monopole, take the tower, and we'll work out a deal for rental space. So hopefully that'll work out for us. So there's some long-term projects we're working on there. Fire Station 1 is probably the challenge that will be before us in the next couple of years. My goal over the next couple of years is to do an analysis of Station 1 to see what's the best use of that facility as far as remodel or rebuild. And so we'll be looking at that. We'll be doing some analysis on that so I can bring back to the council and for some guidance on that as well down the road. The other thing we're working on long-term down the road is I've been working with other department heads, and we've been going through a couple of phases of an EOC training center, an EOC and a public safety training center. I think it's well needed in this area for both police and fire and other agencies as well. We have room at Station 4. We have 10 acres out there, and we've been working on some conceptual drawings. We've visited some sites. We know there's no funding here at the local level, so we've been looking at funding at other public funding sources, and we're also looking at other private sources. We have a lot of interest from the private sector as well to help us with it, and so we're hoping down the road, either incrementally, we can get this plan off and going in the next couple of years, because I think it would be nice to have a good training facility here in our community that could actually turn into a regional training public safety training center. So that's the other thing that we're looking at. Just in general, we've been kind of step up our community outreach. We've kind of stepped up our Facebook posts, especially now that we have Miss Pavey over in our department. She's really good at that. So she's had the opportunity to get us out there more. Some of our public education events we stepped up on. And so we've been keeping pretty busy on that end as well. Last but not least, our fireworks. So we've been hitting our campaign for our illegal and dangerous fireworks. Our motto is safe and sane or feel the pain, $1,000 fine. So working with the police department and the police chief and the council and the city manager, we're going to be very serious this year about addressing illegal fireworks. It may take a year or two for us to get the message out, but I think when a few people feel the pain, hopefully that message will spread in a positive way, and they'll use the appropriate fireworks, the safe and sane fireworks that are sold at the fireworks stands and not those sold illegally. That's okay. I don't remember exactly where this video came from, but I believe it was from a drone in a neighborhood.
That's in front of my house, Chief.
Well, I wasn't gonna be specific, so.
I think that was in front of about 3 or 4 dozen home regions.
And I also think this was on July the 15th. This was the continuation of 4th of July.
So I know the council and the city manager and the police chief myself are very serious about illegal fireworks this year. It's going to be one of those things that it's kind of gotten out of control the last couple of years. We're going to start reeling it in. We're going to do our best. It's going to take us a little while, but I think that that over a short period of time, hopefully we'll be successful. Because we're going to have challenges if we're not, whether it's fires or whether people getting hurt. And I've been on both, and it's not a fun place to be. All the fun stops when someone's house is burning or someone's lost fingers or hands or something like that, or eyesight. Some of the awareness that we're doing for the Safe and Sane is water bill inserts have gone out to residents. Social media blasts have begun, including staff videos. We'll be using our rapid notify system. That's our disaster notification system. So everyone in the city will be getting a phone call, letting people know that at some point between now and July 4th, you may get a little 15 or 20 second voicemail that basically says, hey, don't use illegal fireworks because we're going to be out there. We'll be having fireworks booths at Summer Stroll. We did that already. Prospect Magazine, we've got articles. Extra patrols have already started beginning, from my understanding, a little bit. We'll be beefing that up as we get close to the 4th. We have our YC311 application. Social media and radio interviews will be occurring, and so you'll be hearing a lot of those as you listen to the radio. And we'll have posters on the fireworks booths as well as handouts about not using or buying illegal fireworks. This is what we want. So we want to have a good time on the 4th of July with all our kids and have our parade. And I love our parade, and I love the fireworks that go along with it. I don't want to see anyone hurt at the end of the day, and that's really what the goal is, and loss of property. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
The other thing I have is how could these citizens that are out here at this meeting actually make phone calls? What's the process to actually alert the fire and the police starting now as people are setting things off? And the video, the pictures, or report, how would they do that?
The YC311 app is one of the best ways. Calling the dispatch center at the police department's a second way. If you want it during Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, you can call the administrative building. And if you say, hey, last night my neighbor was doing this, then you know what? That night we may just send a fire engine by just to drive by and see what's going on and see if he's doing it again or she's doing it again. We got no problem knocking on doors if we need to just let people know that we're going to be watching this stuff. If there's neighbors in the neighborhood that continually do it every year, I have no problem sending crews out to just have a friendly talk and say, hey, this year, not a good idea. So hopefully between all of that, we should be able to, we're not going to, I mean, I think what's important to understand is it was challenging for us last year. I mean, I was literally, when the fire chief's running from call to call, it's a bad thing. That means all the engines are tied up. And that's literally what was happening last year was the chief, Land, and myself were running from one place to another. And so we're going to try really hard to curve that this year as much as possible.
Would do videos taken by cell phones or anything be of any good assistance as long as there is identifier of where it is?
You know, I'd have to defer to the police chief, and he's not here right now on the videos. I don't know if I can use those or not, but I guess the best thing to do is just use the app, call us,
Okay.
and if you know ahead of time, let us know, and we'll be more than happy to visit neighbors ahead of time and just get the word out.
Okay.
I'll be happy to, if a neighborhood group wants to get together and they want discussion, I'd be happy to meet with them as well as a group.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, and I'd just really like to reinforce what the chief just said. The best approach we can use as a city is the preventative approach, meaning rather than having the chiefs running around on the 4th of July, if people know historically certain neighbors, we all have them, have been very eager in lighting off fireworks. It's a matter of just asking law enforcement or the fire department to go out as a preventative measure, visit them, at which time most people will probably deny that they ever did any such things. And they'll say, okay, just want to make sure, thank you very much. And it will probably prevent a good number of those people repeating that this year because they'll know that there'll be a watchful eye on them. So YC311 again, or the dispatch number, staff would really like to encourage our citizens. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions from council? Well, great presentation and wonderful future it looks like we have if you're successful on all those grants and everything. It's very nice.
Thank you very much.